we'll work around it.
Yo, check it out. We're live. This is DJ Elf 7, and we got my guy over here, Stephen Phillips, coming straight out of Nevada.
What's up, everybody?
Swing state, right? Swingish state. We also have possibly people coming in from some people are in class and stuff like that, but there may be people dropping in later. So we were talking. We already got 3 people watching. Wow, interesting. Okay, so if you say what's up in the chat, right? Like and share, appreciate it. Yeah, you're gonna hear from some people on the ground as to our thoughts about what's going on. Stephen, you want to introduce yourself to the peoples out here?
Yes, Stephen Phillips, News for Us World. That's my main baby right there, my passion project. It's a grassroots news organization where I do a lot of advocacy work in the background. I do a lot of coverage on the school board corruption, the CPS family court corruption, the guardianship court corruption, as well as the medical fraud corruption. So I've been tying all those pieces together from a grassroots level the last few years, and we've been calling out the man left and right, and fucking calling it how it is, and exposing the media for the liars that they are.
Yeah. So, it's really cool to have someone actually in a swing state, Nevada right there. And Stevens actually has like a strong technical background. So it's very cool. Actually, I remember one time he's good at getting like hidden information. I remember he actually had on a stream one time, they were going through the Hunter laptop stuff. Remember that? Yes. That was a pretty cool live stream. Yeah. So he gets his hands on kind of like
that report is so massive. I have not had time to finish the article because I still have to go through I'm only on freaking business crime number 4, okay? And I still got freaking it's dense. I may need to enlist some help from some article writers on your end if that's not too much of a problem. I'd love to get that shit fast tracked to get that out as soon as possible.
Also, since you're good at getting hidden information, right? Yeah. Heard about Puff Daddy? I heard that the FBI tapes is like somewhere on the web, but I haven't seen any of that.
Oh, well, I have to look for that.
Interested to see
our ways to look for
who's in those tapes and what's going on.
Yeah, it's a good idea. We should look into that.
Most definitely. I think because I've seen some screenshots that look like it comes from the tapes, but then when I watch the video, there's nothing from those tapes. It's just all like previously stream material, but people are talking about like, oh yeah, this video shows such and such together with such and such. I'm like,
Well, if it's out there, I'm sure we can find it.
Yeah. So
pretty much able to find anything you want.
We have 3 people watching now. We're down to 1, so that's weird. Whatever, it's all good. Anyways, we are live, so check it out. I will be sharing the stream in a second. I do have it on large, but just want to spend some time just talking about some of the stuff leading up. So in your area, right? What do you? I'll tell you what. How like in Nevada, right? Do you think things are going to go for Trump? Or do you think things are going to go for Kamala, or do you think it's going to go another way?
Well, right now, according to even the media's own polls, it's looking like 61% Trump right now, according to the latest one that I've seen. So, and even going by those, it's looking pretty much red for right now, based on what I've seen just today. And that's going by CNN, MSNBC. That's going by those polls.
I do this crazy little thing on the train, right? Yeah, I'd be like, I'll say, because I recently took the longest wrongfully incarcerated man in New York State history to Kamala Harris's office. So I say, hey, what's up, folks? I'm also an activist besides being a subway musician, and I say, recently took the longest wrongfully incarcerated man in New York State history to Kamala Harris's office. Do you think she helped? Right? And then how do you think the crowd reacts? We are in a blue city. Do you think they jump in and go, yeah, we think she helped? What do you think the crowd says?
What do they say?
Okay. They all look at me and then they know the answer. They know the answer.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
They know the answer. Oh, it's brutal, man. It's brutal. Yeah. They know the answer.
Yeah.
And then I say, no, she didn't. Right. Yeah. I had one time and the whole entire week where one lady was like a uber Democrat, and she was like, she got mad about what I was saying. But most of the people were like, yeah, I figured, you know what I mean? And so I really think that here's another thing, right? Like recently, that we were actually planning to do an event on the sentencing of Donald Trump, right? We're going to get people from around the country to come through. Pennsylvania, right? Guy named Ronald Long, his mother's the first black detective in Pennsylvania history, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a big fan of the Kamala thing. It's all good. We have a range of views on the show. But as in terms of setting up any type of meeting or something like that. Actually, another one of my activists from Pennsylvania actually got, but Shapiro should have been the vice presidential pick, but they stopped
I
that.
think they would have had a better shot at winning. I agree if they had picked Shapiro. I think they would have
but
had a
actually,
better, better shot.
my people in Shapiro made mad problems on the ground, but they're not trying to report about that because it's embarrassing to them. You know what I mean?
Of course it is.
So,
of course it is. They don't want to talk about that, do they?
yeah. And the sentencing, right? The fact that they delayed it till after the election,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, I think that's like a strategy game on the part of the Democrats because they know that whenever they, you know, persecute Trump, that he's actually
His
kind of like,
popularity
you know,
gets higher.
his
It
popularity
backfires
soars,
on him.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree. They're like this time around. They're like, maybe we shouldn't do that just yet. It might backfire again on them.
I think they'd already. I think it still backfires because the
It
thing
still
is that
does.
now, because
Yeah, it
Trump
still does.
people, right? Yeah, if Trump loses the election, they think he's going to go to jail.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But if Kamala's people win, right? Yeah, then they get to put Trump in jail. Like, are you going to react more when you have to save someone's life, or are you going to react
Right.
more to? Are you going to react more? They say that, like, you know, the Dems are the part is the party of love and tolerance. Actually, their whole campaign is based off the hate of Donald Trump. There's really not a lot else going on.
I agree.
So,
I agree. That's why I'm just like, what the fuck's going on here? That's what kind of like made me start to like, wait a minute. That's way too many. Considering how the media treated him decades prior to that, they loved him. So how are they going to go? I mean, I'm going to quote. I mean, look, I'm just going to give you people an example. Okay, there was a freaking Joe Rogan did a little bit of podcast on this, and he did cover this a little bit, but that's where I found out about it. But there was a freaking View episode from 2011 where Donald Trump was on there right before he was talking, when he was first talking about running, and Joy Behar is quoted as saying, "You're a social liberal, Donald. Can you really get the base to rally behind you?" And so it's like, okay, that says it all for me. You know, it's like, in the considering how she's acting now, it's like, come on, man, we're not blind here.
Yeah, this is full of crap, man. It's really disgusting. It is what
right.
it is. All right, I
agree.
So, yeah,
you like my impression? That's pretty good.
There's no good way out for them, right? Yeah. Now the Trump people are like, if we don't save our president, right? Yeah. So we'll see. And after this debate, Kamala is so bad they had to hide her for the whole entire presidency of Joe Biden. She started to say things and they shut her up. Remember?
It's going to be so bad for her. I almost feel sorry for how this is going to play out.
You know, I'm not really confident in Trump myself, but I'm telling, I think that Kamala's so bad.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to say the least. But you got to know he's got a strategy. He's got it because he's got Tulsi behind him right now, coaching him on that. You know, he's got all the best people that could be giving him the best advice right now to help him with that.
Oh, you know who's advising Kamala?
Who?
Hillary Clinton.
Of course she is. Of course she is.
Well, Hillary Clinton sucks.
Of course she does. We all know that. She's part of the Uniparty.
Yo, I wonder if Kamala's gonna say Pokemon go to the polls. Go ahead.
I love it. That's great. Gotta catch them all, right? That's fucking great, man. That's awesome.
There's no good lines. Her lines are trash. Kamala's gonna break out the hot sauce. Oh,
right.
So bad.
Oh shit, that's great. Oh man.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be funny. We got some other people texting me. Let me just check that text right there. More people might jump in. Let's see.
You go right ahead. I'm gonna step away for a moment, have a smoke, and I'll be right back.
I got right here because he's on the way. Some people are traveling. You know, we're just a little warm up show. Yeah. All right. We are okay. We are. Oh, number. Okay, yeah, so text my guy. Dion maybe jumping by. We got some other people. Cool, folks. Let's see. I think that they're having the live stream now. Let's show that on here. Okay, I made the text large for Mark Safman. There's a chance he joins. He's deaf-blind. He's actually legally blind, but he can still see. But he needs super magnification. He may be watching separately on his own screen. Okay, President Trump gets stable prices. Okay. Oh, this is on ABC Senator Tom Cotton. Okay. Interesting. Hmm. All right. Oh, look, the text went so small. Let's see if I can enlarge the closed caption. Settings, we have it maxed out. Okay, let's go back. Okay, done. Okay, wow, it's so small. Whatever. Just turn it off, actually. Shall listen to what this guy's saying? Oh, Dion's on the way. Okay. Off the captioning. ABC. ABC actually used to be the Disney company. And we'll see. You know, they're kind of. I know that Trump wanted to do it on Fox, so we shall see. Hold my thing for a moment. Yeah. Oh yeah, folks, watch the live stream if you want to know about why Josh Shapiro is not actually the vice presidential pick. He would actually do something called Act 40. They try to pass in Pennsylvania. And a lot of the activists that I know actually went out there and said, if you endorse this guy or if you pick him for VP without fixing this Act 40 stuff, then we're going to come after you. So they did not pick Josh Shapiro. Actually, they had lined him up to be picked. And they said, come out to, we're going to actually make Josh Shapiro the pick for VP. We want you to come and, endorse this. And they said, that's not going to happen.
All right, so I'm back.
Well,
hey, so can I make a pre-debate prediction real quick on how I think? How I think. Okay, so this is my view. I think if Trump sticks to just letting Kamala mostly speak, she's gonna eventually stumble over her words. So his best approach, in my view, would be to go at it from letting her talk more and just being the silent observer, and only when he's doing a counter argument, but let her do most of the talk, and I think she'll fumble over her words. That's going to be my prediction based on the CNN interview alone and how much they edited out of that.
I think they're going to like
my view.
Yeah, if I was coaching her, right? Yeah, I'd be like, look, you really can't win on your own stuff. So just call President Trump a liar and hit him with these facts and try to argue whatever facts he comes up with. And don't try to, because every time she runs her mouth, it's like it's a disaster. She's already had some disasters, and they're trying to protect her from the press. They know she's bad. They know she doesn't.
Dude, they're desperate.
She's given no interviews.
And it's obvious, I think.
Yeah, she's given no interviews. They know she's a wreck. Yeah. We're about to find out.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be good. Either way it goes down. This is history in the making. Either way, man.
Yeah.
I think everything's gonna turn out all right though.
Okay.
I think they've been outwitted at every turn. And it's an end game for them. The uniparty, I mean.
It is a uniparty, you're damn right, yeah. All right.
Yeah, pretty much. The uniparty versus the unity party, MAGA plus MAHA. Now
the third party is a big mess too, man. But we'll get to that one of these days, yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping they have an independent party come out of this next election cycle. I could totally get behind that.
There's something called the Independence National Convention, which is running soon in Denver. But
okay,
it's either Colorado or it's Austin. But I think they had Austin the first time. They're having Denver this time. But that.
I think
go ahead.
I would love to go check that out.
Ooh, okay. Just so you know, the unfortunately, I believe that thing is actually a machine of the establishment, and it's got a lot of people who look like they're cool, but actually from being on the ground in the scenes behind the stuff, the big companies know, right? The people with the money know that third parties are very attractive to regular people nowadays. So they have
Right.
their fakes set up.
They're
They're
already ahead of
all
the game on that.
they
Yeah, I
are
figured.
they are completely
I
ahead of the game.
figured. Good to know. Good to know. Because then I can avoid that kind of situation. But might be good for some recon though.
It's good to go and also to network with the other people that are going there to honestly try to
Right.
start their independent stuff and to meet
Yep.
them. They'll be wowed by the celebrities and the fake shit, but the people that know what's up, will recognize each other and be like, "Yo, what's up?"
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
As
it's
we
easy to
always
tell
do.
because just look for the people that actually got stuff done. You know what I mean? The people that are like,
Yeah.
have a title, but they haven't really, all they can say is some fluffy ass bullshit. Like, they're
Yeah.
fluffy ass bullshit. That's what they are.
Yeah. It's fluffy as bullshit. Well,
Yeah.
freaking what is it? Bullshit talk, or was it? No, I was gonna do a different freaking variation on that, but I can't freaking read. Money talks and bullshit walks was the same, but I wanted to do a variation on it. I'm trying to think how could we phrase that for the context. Anyway, I'll have to come up with one later.
Yeah.
9 minutes, 10 minutes to go.
About to pop off. About to see what's up.
It's gonna be good.
Last time we had Lisa from LA, yeah. She said that she thought that Biden won that debate. She really doesn't like Trump. That's why she was biased. But it's all good.
Isn't it always come down to that though with some people? I don't know why that is. It's TDS.
Yeah. You know what happened at the end of the debate though? Like the media really revealed themselves. They're like, oh yeah, like what did you think? They're like the people behind the scenes, the important people thought this, blah blah blah. They don't care about us regular people. They only care about the big money.
No, dude, of course not. Of course not. And they show it it's very obvious to a lot of people, I think, even people that are maybe afraid to speak up on it. But it's really what's been going on, and everybody can see it. Yeah. You can see it in people's eyes when you can see what's going on. It's downright and right out of 1984 is what it's right out of. I'll tell you that. In real life.
Yeah, there's
1984 IRL.
Yeah. There's other debate parties going on where the elites are watching this shit, you know what I mean? And they're swanky ass parties and shit, and they're the ones who are like, I've been to some of those swanky ass parties, and if you're a normal person,
I've heard about them.
Or if you act like like if you do any type of acting not the way that they want you to, they kick you right the fuck out. Yeah, I got kicked out quick.
Of course they do. All right, sir, you have to go. You have to go, sir. You have to go. Yep.
I just wasn't acting as snooty as them. You know what I mean? That's all. I wasn't like going crazy, nothing. I was like, why are you kicking me out for what? They're like, oh yeah, you're just not, we just don't want you here. They didn't even have a reason there.
No, they didn't have a reason. Like, they know you can't be bought, and that's what scares them.
No, they want people. They already weren't happy the fact that I wasn't like in an expensive suit, like they was,
right.
And then like they was watching me, and just like a couple things, like I was talking to some lady, and she's like, oh, I wasn't, I was trying to meet people, talk to them, but she's like, oh, this peasant's trying to talk to me, like get this.
Yeah, they had this whole we're better than the attitude, like we're peasants and they're the royalty. Well, fuck you. That's what I say. Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't say F off. I kind of just walked off and made his face.
No, I know, but that's what we're both thinking, in those kind of situations. I mean, I totally relate.
These low-class people don't get to judge me. That I could tell that was exactly what her whole entire mentality was.
True story, freaking my father's second wife, evil ass stepmother, was evangelical Christian. Fucking, she hated the fucking shit out of me and my sister. And my brother, dude, she treated us like shit when we lived with him for like a month, my last quarter of my freshman year. And man, I can tell you from experience, that is fucking some twisted shit. But she was neocon. She was a Bush neocon. And she treated us just like the way you were talking about, like we're peasants. But then in front of my dad, she'd treat us differently. Ain't that some shit?
It is, yeah. Christy, what's up, bro? I got some of my friends from Jersey too. Like I tried to, we'll see what's up if they show up.
Nice.
All right, I'm gonna turn on the sound, I guess.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Huh? It's about 7 minutes
He
total
told
debate.
you that he had respect for Hillary Clinton, that Hillary Clinton was smart.
Oh my God! Did they say Hillary Clinton smart? Oh, it's already trash.
Well, certainly he's not saying that publicly in any way. And I can tell you that in 2016, he would regularly say during the many debate prep sessions that we had with him that Hillary Clinton was smart, that she was a good debater, that she was not to be taken lightly. And I don't think there was ever a moment in 2016 where he took her lightly. I do think he took Joe Biden lightly in 2020. And clearly during the prep sessions that I had with him, it was very, very difficult to get him to focus on what Joe Biden might or might not do in that first debate. And I think his performance in part reflected that. So the question's going to be, is what he's saying publicly what he really believes? We know that often with Donald Trump, that's performance. But I will tell you that in his 2016 prep, he was serious about getting ready for Hillary Clinton. In his 2020 debate prep, he was completely unserious about getting ready for Joe Biden. I think performances in both those debates reflected that approach.
All right, Chris Christie, you'll be watching with us. Martha?
And we have about 6 minutes left before the debate. So let's bring in Donna Brazil, formerly of the DNC, and Reince Priebus, the RNC. Welcome
Isn't
to
she
both
corrupt?
of you. And Donna, let's start with you.
Why is she
you
still
have
on
said
here?
that Kamala
Oh my
Harris
God.
has
They're
to
all
own
corrupt,
the
man.
future.
Especially on
She
ABC.
also has to own
she
the
CNN.
past. So how does she do this?
It's quite easy because I do believe that in talking about the
Why are
future,
you
you
still
draw
here?
from your past.
Oh
You
my
draw from your
God.
past experiences. She draws from how she was raised,
Boo,
the values
she's
that was
a
instilled in
crook.
her as a young lady.
Donna
Look,
Brazil
she
is
is
a
steady
crook.
on
What
her
is-
feet, still in her resolve.
What the hell
and
is this?
tonight she should talk to the American people, sitting there
I
like
know,
a
man.
go
It's
to
sad,
the
isn't
kitchen
it?
table and say,
No,
look,
Manuel Finley
I
is
have
here, a
some
state assembly member.
ideas
We're
that I
going to
want to
shut this lady
share
up,
with
this
you.
liar over
There's
here.
so much that we have done together over
Well,
the
what can we
last 4
expect from
years.
ABC?
But here
Emmanuel, what's up, bro? Nice to see you. Emmanuel's running for state assembly, just so you know, here in New York.
Hey, good to have you here, Emmanuel.
You want to introduce yourself and your campaign right quick before I turn this liar back on? Donna Brazil. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Emmanuel. Either way, yeah? If you want to say
Unmute
something,
yourself,
that's cool. Emmanuel, it's still muted. Either way, yeah?
Yes, I am. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I had another live stream playing in the corner, so that's why I had to mute everything first for a moment.
All right, yeah. So you're running for state assembly?
Yes, State Assembly, 79th Assembly District.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so we're just checking out the debate. You know, anything else you want to say? You want to give out your website address or anything like that?
Currently, right now, the only website we currently use is the Conservative Party website, which is the BronxConservativeParty.com.
Okay, check it out, folks. I actually did quite a few things with Bronx Conservative Party, and they're kind of like my second home out here politically. Yes, so it's pretty cool. All right, so you know about Donna Brazil and her lying, right?
Yes,
how about
giving out the answers to Hillary Clinton and then lying, saying she never did.
Why is she still here? Why is she still?
Because she'll toe the line. That's why.
Oh my goodness, these people have no shame. It's ridiculous. She should be banned. What is
They really don't have any shame, do they?
Wow.
Well,
I know, it's sad.
Bouncing from one network to the next to other network. So then how can you actually get objective news if it's the same people that they'll lie over here, but then take that same attitude and take it to the next place?
They couldn't find anyone else? Anyone? Oh my, this is just so bad. Like,
that's really telling us how bad they must be really doing.
How do we know she hasn't given Kamala the questions?
She probably did. But
that's why it's ABC. That's why it's on ABC, man. Come on, we know they're going to give her the questions ahead of time, no doubt.
See, this is why I like Elon's idea of putting them in the town hall debate style, and then have the questions come live from X.
Yeah, you know what?
I agree 100% with you, brother. 100% with you on that one. Absolutely.
I heard that Tulsi's doing the debate prep for Trump, but you know who's doing the debate prep for Kamala? It's Hillary Clinton. Yeah. All right, Manuel might be in another live stream. It's all good. Yeah, he's busy, man, doing a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah, no,
stuff.
he's good. He's good. You just
All right, cool.
it's common practice to mute yourself when you're not speaking. I do that all.
They should be starting any moment. It's 9 o'clock now. We're going to turn these fools back on. We're going to hear what they have to say.
Let her talk. Let her
About to go
explain
down, baby.
herself, her past positions, current positions. How does she feel about how Biden has done on the economy? How does she feel about the border? Well, then turn it over and let her talk.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Donna
Oh,
and Reince. We're all
my
staying
God.
tuned. Can't wait.
And I have to say, as we are just a couple of less than 2 minutes away, this such an extraordinary moment, and especially Rachel, when you consider that these two people that have been the center of our lives for the last 2 months have never met each other.
Have never even met each other. And Harris said, if you got something to say it to my face. The question tonight, does Donald Trump actually go there? He's questioned her racial identity. He's questioned her intelligence as well. Or does he stick to the issues?
Look, this is the largest audience they're likely going to have in this race.
Oh,
It
this
will
black
be
lady's
interesting to
leaning
see
in,
if Harris
for
can
real.
make
You see
clear the
that?
stark choice before voters. And where does she decide to land her punches? She can punch hard. Can she do that while rising above the needling coming her way? But first and foremost, are we going to see a handshake when the two of them meet for the first time?
We
Oh,
didn't
man.
back in 2016 when I did that debate. We'll stand by to see that tonight. But the first time, side to side, together.
And I have my
Boo.
doubts that we're going to see that handshake.
Boo.
What we are going to see is
Oh, my
a
goodness.
spirited debate and perhaps the most consequential general election debate we have ever seen, because almost certainly going to be the last
Yo,
one.
if Trump doesn't win,
So
he could go to
with
prison.
The stakes so high, the presidential debate just moments away.
Oh, my goodness.
We have the entire
My
news
fear is
division
that even if he does win, they
everything.
might try to
We're
still
going
send
to
him
be
to prison.
fact checking on our live blog. It's all going to be happening right here. The debate now just 10 seconds away, and we will be back with our post-game show as soon as it's over. We are going to toss it right now to David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
If he's the president, can he pardon himself?
Tonight, the high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald
Well,
Trump.
it depends
Their
on what
first
level it is.
face-to-face
Because
meeting
on
in
the
this
state level, he
presidential
can't do it.
election.
It has to be on
Their
the
first
federal level.
face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
All right, let's go.
This is an ABC News special, the most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Oh, what's up, Lisa?
Donald
You
Trump.
coming in?
We will
Who will
soon
win?
be a
See,
great
I'm waiting for her to
nation
have
again.
that
Face-to-face,
black woman
historic.
moment, because I think that's what they're going
The
for.
ABC News presidential debate.
So I think she's going to
Here
try and
now,
slip that in
David
somewhere.
Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Let me turn it down just a little bit, yeah?
Good evening. I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers
Because she's
watching on
definitely going to call him
ABC
racist.
and around the world.
Oh,
today.
yeah, we'll
Vice
see what's up.
President
Yeah, I
Kamala
believe
Harris
that.
And President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice
If Trump
President
wins,
Kamala
I don't
Harris,
think
this
she
is
does
her
another
first
debate.
Since President Biden withdrew from the race on
This is
July
your one chance,
21st.
Kamala.
Of course, that decision
Yeah.
followed his debate against President
I
Donald
think
Trump.
she's done
in
after
June.
tonight.
Be
Since
forced to
then,
do
this
another
race has
one, because
taken
if she
on
loses
an
this one, they
entirely
might switch her
new
out.
dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules.
Switch
of
her out
tonight's
with
debate.
who,
90
Hillary?
minutes With 2 commercial breaks.
With
no
Obama's-
topics or questions have been
No,
shared.
because all the
know.
money they raised, it's got to go to
Candidates will have 2
Kamala.
minutes to answer
Given
to
questions.
how
This is
things
the
are
clock.
going,
That's what
I
they'll
mean,
be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals.
will you
and
be
1 minute for
surprised?
follow-ups,
Tim Waltz? You think
clarifications,
Tim
or
Waltz will take
responses.
over?
Their microphones will only be turned on.
It has
when
to
it's
be a
their turn
woman.
to speak. No
Most
pre-written
likely, the
notes
most
allowed.
radical person is
There
probably
is
going
no
to be
politics
AOC.
tonight in this hall at the
I don't think
National
they can do it.
Constitution Center. This is
It's
an
too much.
intimate
It's
setting
too much
for
money.
two candidates
Like already
who have
wrapped up
never
in
met.
this.
President Trump won.
There are a
the
lot of
Supreme
things that we
Court
thought they
first
couldn't do, but they
vote
somehow
final
ended up
closing
doing it
arguments
anyway.
of the evening.
Yeah,
Vice
true,
President
true.
Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Boo. Oh, they did shake hands.
Accept the debate. Thank you.
Lying. She's trying to put him in
Welcome to you
jail.
both.
Oh, my God.
It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a
Word
plan that is
salad
about
time.
lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and
answering
have
the
actually a
question.
plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford
He's
to
not
buy a
answering.
crib,
Shout out to
buy a
Permaculture
car
Mom in the
seat,
chat.
buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money that it would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during
Shout out
this
to
debate,
Tom from
but
Wisconsin in the
I would
House.
like to let Vice President
Other
Harris
swing states
respond
with
on the
us?
economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. I gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the
He's right
president
about
said
that.
there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet.
What?
Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact,
The first time she's been called out on that.
she's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. but we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans, they didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD. In all fairness, JD, and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you
That's
answer the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question, would you veto?
could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this,
seen people on television.
let me just say here, this is
the people on television say
clear-
my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people are
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect
Where's
the
the
American
policy?
people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Good question.
Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy
President
with a fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking.
Why are they cutting him off, but they're not cutting her off?
Back programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing.
Good question.
Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on longstanding work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies, like She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of it. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, and what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If you go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Mr. Those President, people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things.
Steer
we
it
need
back
walls,
towards policy.
And we
They're
have to
getting
have
away
it.
from
We have to
policy.
have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14
now there's
million
the Trump
votes.
I was waiting
They
for.
threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so, absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately. And the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and an equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it. that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
Are we at intermission or is that it?
No, there's a commercial break. And yeah, so on my phone, where this debate is like, I think maybe like 2 or maybe a minute ahead of what we're watching here in real time. And thank you guys for letting me in. So I really like Trump. He said none of this would happen to him. I believe him. His record speaks for itself. January 6th.
Go ahead.
January 6th. If you notice, Twitter and I was back at Twitter, and Elon Musk even released the actual, complete statement. Yes, he did say march peacefully, and I personally know people that were at January 6th and what really went down there, and it's absolutely media's telling you. So I'll let somebody else talk.
I agree 100% with you, brother. I mean, the evidence is all there for those that are willing to look, Anybody else want to speak?
And another thing she said about the Haitians. Now, let me take a step back. If I was Trump, I would say, hey, I went to the Bronx and you did not when it comes to actually engaging the community in my rallies. My rallies in the Bronx. How about yours? And another thing that when it comes to the Haitians are the #1 demographic of migrants deported from this country. And I say for shame to all my Haitian friends that's like, oh my God, look what Donald Trump said. Look what J.D. Vance just said, Dion. I was like, well, here's the article. They're just sending more troops from Kenya to go kill other Black African people in Haiti. Hey, remember these pictures with the guys on the horses and the whips? Those are Haitians, by the way. The only demographic getting deported.
Right. No, you make a really good point. I think you're absolutely spot on with that assessment, 100%.
And you see, the thing is, people actions speak louder than words. Unfortunately, people just can't let it go. Donald Trump threw toilet paper in Puerto Rico, Dion. Well, guess what? Dion has eyes and ears everywhere. I know somebody hates Trump's guts that was in Puerto Rico that day. And she said, you know what? I hate this man's guts, but they egged this man on and they told him to throw those damn paper towels. So the media is actually lying. I will give him that.
There you go. Couldn't have said it better myself, my friend.
Yeah, she wasting her time talking about Donald Trump. He did this. He didn't do that. He did this.
Right.
He did that. He didn't do this. Why you ain't answering the questions about what you want to do to make change? She should have stepped up when he said, all right, you got the ability to close the border. Stop the meeting right now. Stop this bullshit we doing. And go down there and close the border.
I love how he did the Kamala Harris. Excuse me, I'm talking right now. I said, yeah, check it out.
Hey, yo, what he said?
I must have missed that when I stepped out for a smoke break. Oh, man, I'm going to have to go back and catch that. That's a good one. I didn't know he did that. I missed that part.
Excuse me, I'm talking. I was like, get a Trump.
Hey, yo, look what he's, and then he said, oh, don't that sound familiar?
There's a true New Yorker. You don't give up.
Yeah, I got that one. I heard that one. Yeah, that was good.
Okay, it's back on.
Okay, hold up. Put it on. Hold up a second. Okay, I still have the thing, but I'm gonna. Yeah, okay. Share screen. Here we go. I should kick on any moment then. Cool. Thanks.
Man, they're gonna be mad as hell in the morning, man. Like, you did terrible.
Oh yeah, she's gonna be right back to her drinking, I think.
Yeah, man, she need a drink tonight, like right now. You can look at her face.
Notice how her eyes were bloodshot, right?
And you can tell she Indian. She looked like the goddamn chief.
Man, I mean, dude, you know, she had that look, at least in my view, that like, man, I can't believe I have to do this while I'm sober. What do you say?
Yeah, man. See, if this was back in the 70s and all that, she could have had a little bottle of something, a little cup of something on the rocks or something like Dean Martin and them, but you can't do that nowadays.
Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend.
Yeah, my froze. Yeah.
Did it freeze on us?
Yeah.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
Give it a little.
They're always trying to stop us from getting the truth out.
That's right. Can't handle this.
They can't handle the truth.
Okay.
The network doing that, man.
YouTube live.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me see. Wait, it's playing now. I could technically even pause it for on YouTube Live.
Hasn't spoken to anybody.
Oh, we're good now.
They
Okay.
don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Why do they keep cutting him off?
Do you believe it's in the U.S. best
Because he's calling out their bullshit, and they know it.
It's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that
But you're
Donald
part
Trump
of the
says
Biden
that this war would be
administration.
over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up.
Right.
It's not who
I
we
was
are
just
as
about to say that.
I actually met with Zelensky a few days before
For
Russia
all intents and
invaded,
purposes, you are
tried
the
through
incumbent.
force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine
I shouldn't
stands
have been
as an
there in the first
independent and
place.
free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we, understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch?
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen.
I agree, permaculture, Mom. You're 100% on that one.
And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have.
I agree, Noni
He
Mouth.
said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So,
Yeah, I agree. Noni Mouse, it was a terrible withdrawal.
Wait till you get to the Taliban.
killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said,
Absolutely,
"You're gonna have to
Colonel
figure that out,
I
Abdul."
completely agree.
And for 18
We didn't keep
months,
our word.
Why'd you send me pictures of me in my house, Mr. President? I will blow your shit up.
It was a very good agreement. The reason
Exactly.
we're getting out, we would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black.
I was
and
waiting
now
for
she
this
wants to
one.
be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't. And
This is going to be a good response.
Because she's leading with it. That's what she's leading
You make a
with.
big deal out of
If
something.
you lead
I
with it,
couldn't
I'm going to
care
call
less.
you out on it.
Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was
From what I remember, they were all agreeing with him and laughing with him at that
He
conference.
owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families.
Except for that journalist on the
Same
stage.
individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5, took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago.
That was a bad
Because
response.
there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country, one who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging
Like,
the American
boy,
people.
where have I heard that
I
historically
believe in
before?
what we can do to protect small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan
Uh-oh.
to
Uh-oh.
give startup
Don't make it
businesses
freestyle.
$50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
No,
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump.
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
I
We're
just
gonna
need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gonna.
Yeah, I agree with you, permaculture, fracking's a scam in my view.
As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, let's just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last
That is not
4 years
under her
strengthened the
administration,
Affordable
though.
Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you,
Taking
the
credit for
American
things
people.
that she did
Donald
not
Trump said he
do.
was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president,
That doesn't
we
go
have
into
capped the
effect
cost
by
of
Bill
prescription
2025,
medication for
2026.
seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it,
Vice
pass this
President
prologue
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue
Well,
that's important for a
She
lot
made a
of
mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. They're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable, but we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't
Well, commercial on my end.
China paid millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get?
If you're watching on your browser, use Ad Blocker Plus. That should get rid of the ads on YouTube.
Why did she pay $3.5 million?
No, there's another one I'll put in the chat.
This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
It's called uBlock Original. That's the best one right now for YouTube. uBlock Original. Get rid of all those commercials.
Okay. Does it have a better like, you know how when you go to news sites, like a lot of the time they'll tell you turn off your ad blocker because it can detect ad block. Does it have that issue too, or is it better than? Is it like ad blocker plus before? Better. Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
All right, it's in the chat. Well, fellas,
So, who do you guys think is winning?
well, I got to say, Kamala Harris. Surprisingly, they prepped her pretty well from the usual cackling and then word salad. So I will give her credit for that. Donald Trump, he just needs to focus more on certain trigger words, but he's doing good in the sense that he's always beating them on what's happening now as opposed to what happened under him. But I wish he would go harder on Dick Cheney and the War Machine and Making Money and how much they love this guy. And I wish he would go harder with, playing into the racial identity and how she's disrespected Black America. He's going to Black America. She's got more Black community. He should be like, Kamala Harris, you're disrespectful to Black America. I want you to look to Clara right now and admit you're Black or something. That was just me.
I agree with you there, man. He definitely needs to go more that angle. I think that will be in his benefit 100%, brother. Couldn't agree with you more on that.
Oh, 12 Veils think that Donald Trump is winning. Interesting.
Yeah, where's this
12 Veils?
live?
You have the link. You could explain why. You could jump in and explain why. Yeah.
But where's the link for the live feed for us? So people.
I think
put it in the chat. I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, 12 Ales, you have the link. You could jump in if you want. Yeah. Explain
Yeah,
why
I
you
just need
think
the
so.
link. Is this on Facebook Live? Is it on Instagram Live streaming? Or is it on YouTube Live?
We're on. It's on my YouTube Live. Yeah.
Yeah, all right,
I
so
mailed the link out to some people. Yeah, someone put the link in the chat. Yeah, I think it's a pretty even. I don't think it's like exactly even, but I think it's, it's like Biden was completely like he couldn't even answer the question, but I could tell that also, like, she sounded very Biden-esque at times because they had her memorize her lines. So she memorized a long speech, and I could see her struggling with it, but she remembered it, so okay.
I just put the YouTube link in the chat.
She's losing by far, man. Every question they ask her, her first response is Donald Trump. Donald Trump. When they ask him a question, he's like, the way I'm gonna stop the war, I'm gonna go get this person. I'm gonna go get this person. How you gonna stop the gas? How you gonna get the gas price? Well, I'm gonna go get this. I'm gonna do this. He's actually telling us his plan. All she doing is telling us what he did and what he didn't do, and the rumors that she heard about him. She's losing by far. She's not answering none of the questions. None of the questions is asking her, how do you feel about what Trump did about it? All her answers is what Trump did. Is nothing but what she's going to do. And when she says she's going to do something, all she do is say, yeah, well, I'm going to do this. The only thing she said she was going to do was give out $6,000. And nobody could believe that because she said she was going to kill all the student loans. So you lied about money that time, and you lied about flashing money in front of people's face that they're not going to get this time.
Right. And I think they should have brought up I think he should have brought up the fact, or still should, if it's going to keep going, that about the tax on no tax on tips that he proposed in Vegas, that she proposed 2 months after the fact in Vegas herself. I think that would have been a good point for him to bring up as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. But also, the fact that she's the vice president right now. She's been the vice president for the last 3.5 years. It's not like both of them is just coming in and they got clean slates. You coming in here dirty as hell. You are part of all of this right here. So you automatically got 20 points off you just for that.
And the funny thing, and the other thing that people seem to forget, is that we've had an opportunity, probably the only time in history we've had an opportunity to see a presidency, what it looks like under Donald Trump, and what a presidency is most likely to look like under Kamala Harris. So we've seen both of them in the White House. We've seen what their administration are capable of. We've seen what Kamala has done over the border. And when you compare the two, it's not even close.
It's not close.
Trump's policies were better.
He should have been like, we need to stop with all this feel-good bullshit and let's get the job done. She wants to.
I would have loved to hear him say that. That would have been great, right?
You see what I'm saying? These people in Europe fear me. You want somebody that want me to talk to the Taliban in Camp David? What's wrong with you? That's what Camp David is for, to bring people together and talk. You only talk to freaking the president of Ukraine. You talk to Putin. What's wrong with this?
Yeah, and this is going a 3-on-1. It's not really a debate. It's a 3-on-1.
I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes
Feedback was coming from somebody.
understanding the aspirations, the dreams,
Hey, boy, maybe mute yourself.
the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever ask them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris,
Wait,
thank you.
is she implying she wants to be a dictator?
She just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
There you
Had
go.
3.5
That's the point.
years to fix the border.
That's right. Get him, Trump.
To create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our
And that's it, everybody.
Here in Philadelphia at the National
Everybody,
all right, folks, that was wild. All right, let me shut that up right there. Okay, that's done. All right, folks. So, what do you guys think? What's up?
Well, unfortunately, the mass people in the other chats I'm in feel as though she won. But for me, it's like, you know, this debate is always uneven because they always fact check Trump and they don't check her for shit or anybody else. And then on top of that, Donald Trump actually won at 3 debates that she declined. And she also wanted to change the rules for this debate. And people don't want to see those kind of things.
All right, all right. The thing is that if I put in
time, what we have to look at is what we do have. And from what we do have, it seems a bit more even than I expected it to be.
Right.
Yeah. Kamala's actually, maybe she's sober for once because supposedly she's drunk all the time.
Well,
so,
and then also, I'm not going to get past the fact that they also did give her a lot of help. She got a lot of help.
Yeah.
To be able to be on par with him. And that's saying something because if you're getting all that help and all you can come out is on par, you're losing.
Well, the thing about it is that Trump actually ended strong by just keep reinforcing what she's done now and what's happened in the last 3 years. Keep what she's done now. Look at what she's done now. All right, yeah, he's right. And she's just blaming you the whole time.
Well, she's there to protect their control of the money, right? That's really what it is. She's just there to protect their money. That's all.
She missed out on. I think somebody got to mute. So what she missed out on, what he missed out on rather, was his ace in the hole, which was RFK and Tulsi. He should have said, well, this person over here just got endorsed by Dick Cheney, who wants to make a lot of wars. That's why they love these wars. Whereas I teamed up with RFK, who actually is a person of peace. This person over here is embracing a whole bunch of war criminals and disrespectful to veterans. Unlike me, I brought in a nice veteran that everybody loves, which is Tulsi Gabbard. I'm about unifying people. This person's all about talk about unifying people. Where I unify people myself. You see what I'm saying?
We'll have to see if maybe Trump did it on purpose. Maybe he doesn't really trust them. You know, I mean, we'll have to see. Yeah, who knows how it's going to turn out. But also, I would like to hear about Wisconsin. I know Tom is here, but unfortunately, when I let him in, it goes beep beep beep. So it's a new connection. Maybe because the token's not right, but this connection actually makes extra sound. But I am interested to hear my people in Pennsylvania. I talked to them earlier. They're actually at the events and stuff, so that's why they're not here. We also have Nevada in the house. I think we talked at the beginning of the program. You said it's strong for Trump, and you said like 70% Trump. And
it's 61% according to the latest CNN polls.
Okay, so it's pretty safe for Trump, I think, right? Yeah, 64 to 10% is considered pretty safe. So okay, that's cool. We'll see about New York. Yeah. Yo, Tom, you want to put in the chat? How was Also, we had Josh Haley from Alaska watching. Is Alaska red? I think it pretty is red, right? Yeah. But put in the chat what you think is going on Anonymous. Let us know what's going on in your section of the country and if it's pro-Trump or Kamala, yeah, and whether you think Kamala won or if you think Trump won.
Yeah, she most definitely lost, man. Ain't no way in the world somebody with a rational mind that know that she's been sitting in that office for 3.5 years, and he kept pointing it out. What's going to make you so super different in 6 months that you didn't do none of this in 3.5 years? I see if you already had some of it going on, where we can see it, and then be like, yo, boom, you already see what I'm doing right now. Then we'd be like, damn, word up, you already see with the steps she's doing, boy, you already see it. She laid the foundation. She ain't do nothing.
My thing is this. No, he should have been like, what is the Democrats' obsession with abortion for? I mean, why are we still talking about this? These could be kids, these could be cells, I don't care. And then she didn't answer the question, have you ever met with Putin? Of course not. Trump has met with Putin, some of the toughest gangsters in the world. Kim Jong-un, and sending pictures to the Taliban, I will blow your shit up. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Trump's a gangster himself. He understands. Yeah.
You see, the thing is, he also said, she's like, oh, well, he would invite the Taliban to Camp David. So the fuck what? That shows that he's not scared. He's bringing people to the table to talk. That's exactly what he should have said. I mean, I was so tired of that. You know what I mean? And then Russia's the evil enemy. Every single time, all these people she's name dropping are bad. Trump could talk to good, bad, and otherwise, and still tell everyone. The thing somebody said today was very key to me. Trump is authentic. He's Trump on Monday. He's Trump on Tuesday. You know what I mean? Kamala Harris is like, oh, well, this, that, black, Indian, collard greens in the bathtub with bacon and Tabasco. He should have, I mean, oh man, I wish I was.
I was just going to ask you about the collard greens. I was going to ask you about that. I was like, does that sound normal? I don't think it does it?
That was a slap in the face. I don't know how K-Bone feels and Manuel's from Africa as well. How they feel, but it was a slap in the face. Somebody sitting on the toilet making collard greens in the bathtub with tobacco and bacon. She's saying if it was a trivia game, she'd have fucking lost. Name something that goes in collard greens. Dion. All right, cool. Smoked turkey wings. Dion. Oh wow, my aunt used to make it with pigtails. Dion. Oh, neck bones. Wow, bacon. Wrong. That's cabbage, dummy.
Wow. Yeah. All right.
I'm getting I'm mad.
You make so many good points, man. You're absolutely spot on with all of that. I completely agree.
Yeah, we're gonna see what's up. Yeah. So.
And you know, the other thing also, for somebody that claims to know the culture so well and to be part of the culture, to not even know the basics of cooking, the foods, it's, come on now, that's a slap in the face. If you don't know how to cook, just say, hey, I don't know how to cook. Don't try to pretend that this is what I do and we did this every Saturday or whatever day you did. You didn't do it. Stay true to who you are and let us know, hey, this is the person we're voting for. Stop putting up a facade as to who you are.
That's why I said that Trump is, like they told me today, authentic. Like it or not, Trump is always going to be his fucking self. You could say that, you can hate his guts, but hey, you think Trump's being himself today? Or, you know, Trump is that is Trump. I hate his ass. Do you think Kamala Harris is being herself today? Oh, I don't know. Is she pandering? Maybe. But another thing, too, about the collard greens. As a political consultant myself, Ed knows this, Emmanuel knows this, Stephen, we've been on panels before, I believe, is that it goes to show who's in your circle of advisors. because if you show somebody black like me, then maybe it would end a little differently. Now, if you watch that Collard Green's statement that she made, there was a black girl there trying to coach her, but she wasn't really hearing it or figuring out how to utilize it. That goes to show that, hey, what's going on? And everybody and beating in her brain about Project 2025, when the whole world, even people like, oh, Trump's got nothing to do with Project 2025.
Right.
When are you gonna talk about Agenda 47, lady? So whoever's in her inner circle as a consultant, there's certain things you gotta know. That's why I believe I'm good, because I work with people I can trust and people can trust me. But there's a lot of people in this game that just knows you're gonna lose and make a lot of money. There's a lot of people in this game that's a mole that's in there just nothing but sabotage your whole shit. Now me, I know some of those characters in New York City. So if I'm asked, I said, well, look at this article. Look at this article. Read it yourself. Dion's not gonna knock anybody else then try to wrestle their bag. But I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Ed does the work too. And, you know, we get chump change, crumbs and pennies, but we know our shit. Who's who and what's what? Who's a snake? You know, who's a shark? You know what I mean? Who smells bad from a mile away, even though we don't know him? We may dig up some stuff or hear somebody from our network. And that's it. But Donald Trump, hopefully I can get with Tina Forte and get the campaign office, get a budget, and just live in that district and hopefully turn New York red. But Trump, it's been said he has the wrong people around him. I agree.
Well, Tina Fey and myself also, because remember, it's a team. It takes a team. You're running, I'm running, team is running. We have to put it out there, because even if we put Trump wins, the local election is where it's at, because that's what affects your everyday life. You have to know who are in these positions. So remember to go out. Me, myself, Emmanuel Finley, I am running for the 79th Assembly District in the Bronx. So we want to make sure that when we send Trump to the White House, we send him with a team of people that we know are going to align with the policies that we want to see.
Right. You're gonna have to fix it on the thing. It says 49, I think, on the tagline. But yeah, I also, like you said, Emmanuel, in the office, just so everybody know, we had a grand opening on Saturday for Tina Forte's office, but it's supposed to be a combined Republican and Bronx Party office. And one thing I'm trying to work out is to have office hours and time slots for me to help all the candidates and some other coordination. I shouldn't say that word, some other, collaborations or whatever from all the candidates as well. If we could create synergy in that office, scheduling, I could do training, all that kind of stuff. We would be a lethal force if, like, Emmanuel said, we combine our efforts. And that's what should happen amongst other candidates I know personally, and that's about the network. But again, Trump, no matter how hard I try, maybe it's God, getting to Trump to different angles, different black leaders in the Republican Party, they're not trying to invest a penny in New York City. Number two, Republicans are 3 years behind the Democrats and 5 years behind the socialists when it comes to any kind of methodology and campaigning. As soon as I said I have a whole network of Kenny's people, because I'm the former PAC, National Black African American Affairs, they should say, all right, we need Dion Powell. Bring everybody in Kennedy's camp over here right now. Let's do a Zoom. Zoom's former campaign volunteers. Last night I was on a Zoom. Over 1,000 people. Just like, what do we do? Oh, Kenny, what about this Trump? Blah, blah, blah. But still, they were there, eager to work.
I love that about the Kennedy camp, man. I'm a huge Kennedy fan myself. And, I've been working with some people out of Colorado. Luann Fleming and Robin Austin, they're pretty well known in the podcasting on the adult guardianship corruption. And, we had that moment too, right before, literally a few days before the endorsement. So, we watched that live. That was huge for us, because so MAGA and MAHA combined, man, a beautiful thing in my view.
But the thing is, it's underutilized. Unfortunately, oh wow, it's still live. Wow, I'm telling too many secrets. But Scott Presler, another person that somebody from the MAHA people say, Dion, you got to talk to Dion. And I was like, okay, cool, what's up? He's like, yeah, do you know anybody in Pennsylvania? Because, we can't reach anybody in Trump's camp in Pennsylvania. Bobby sent out the word. We got to make it red and blah, blah. I said, cool, let me reach out to Scott Presler. Now, Ed, I'm sure you know Scott Presler. Steven, I'm sure you know Scott Presler. But Emmanuel, if you Google Scott Presler on Twitter, this man single-handedly must have registered over 100,000 Republicans these past few years. And the fact that the Republican Party doesn't live up his ass is amazing. But now since
he's done amazing work in that. He is really hauling ass there. I agree, man. He's doing great work.
Yeah, man. It's unfortunate Republicans aren't as embracing. You have to beg them, plead them, buy $100,000 table at their damn event, but really consider a conversation. all come to the table with like $100 million in pocket. And that's unfortunate. But me, even though they're not going to invest in New York City, I'm going to do my best with Tina, Emmanuel, everybody in their respective districts with the little funding we have or flyers or team volunteers to make this city red and make sure New York is going to be a surprising upset that goes red. Who the fuck did that? Dion Powell, Tina, Emmanuel, the team, the Bronx Conservative Party. And we had Trump in the Bronx. We made the first Republican city council person in 40 years and the most Democratic, 1.1 million Democrats in the United States of America. Totally underutilized and unrecognized. But
and also one more thing to add to what you were saying earlier, and that's the problem people have with the Republican Party is that the Republican Party is not visible. You're not seen. So when people are saying, why should we go Republican Party? We don't see them. They don't show up, but the Democrats do. And if the Democrats do, better the demon the devil I know than the angel I don't. And that's how people are going to view it. If you want,
they definitely have an edge on strategy that over the Republicans. I agree. They need to bridge that gap or fill that gap. That's where they're lacking in as well. I agree.
And that's it. You show up. Show up. Maybe the first couple of times you show up, people are not going to like you. They might not want to talk to you. But the consistency in you showing up every single time and you being there, that's what people are going to see. And then people are going to go, okay, now we can listen to you. Now maybe we want to hear what you have to say. People don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And you show how much you care by coming there all the time, showing up. When there's nothing in it for you, you still show up. Then people will care about it.
Well, there's a saying.
I can speak to that experience myself. Oh, sorry. I'll just be real quick. I can speak to that experience myself in my own work, here locally, just covering the school board corruption. It took a long time for people to really get to know me and to start to see that I was there for the right reasons. And so I can absolutely speak to that. Even though I'm an independent, I can absolutely speak to that experience to you coming from the outside in,
Yes, sir.
That's good.
Go ahead, Dion.
So how can we so now that we just have different states in the house, Tom just stepped off. Once again, he's from Wisconsin. My people from Pennsylvania, I'll be in contact with them soon. Quite excited for the thing we have tonight. This Sunday, just so you know, we actually have at 7 p.m. We're going to have our third party presidential candidate debate. If you want to be a moderator for our upcoming, I think there will be another candidate debate coming up in October. I wonder if it'll be on Fox. I think this was actually the best debate out of the entire series so far. So
can I put something? Can I put something in the chat?
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely, please. Yeah.
I want you to share this because to me, this is what I call the knockout punch of the last debate that I let me see if I put it here. Wow. 1 second. Because I put it in a lot of chats and I said, this is the knockout punch of the last debate with Joe Biden. Okay, here it is. I found it. Let's see if you can cue this up, my friend. I'm going to put this in the chat. Share this and make sure the world sees the knockout blow of Joe Biden. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, give me a second.
Yeah, play that shit, Ed. We want to see it.
I'm gonna give me a second. Yeah, I was actually trying to bring up something else. Okay, let me get the private chat over here. Oh wow, the private chat was blowing up. Okay.
Don't forget to share the sound.
Okay, hold up. Oh my goodness, I see Biden here. Oh, is this when he can't even answer the question? Hold up, I'm gonna see. Okay.
Can I share a screen real quick? I want to show you guys something when she said she never approved.
Do you guys have the ability to show stuff? Okay, give me a second. I'm actually gonna do one.
Yeah, I can do it if you want.
I'm gonna do the video first.
I would assume so.
Wait, am I sharing it now? Okay, this is the one that
there's no volume. You gotta make sure
play
the
it now.
volume.
Give me a second. Yeah.
Continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do.
Look at Trump's face.
Well,
Ed, you there? You stopped it by mistake.
I think it froze up on us. It was doing that before we started the live earlier when we were talking before we got going.
more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, gotcha. That's Donald
That
Trump.
was great. That was great.
President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you?
Oh yeah, this guy's lost. All right, yes. Let me just close that up. Okay, back to us. All right, so pretty much that's it. Anything else anybody else wants to say about the debate? We do have our upcoming debate on Sunday. Some other cool events. We got a free party coming up for all kids in the city. Then we're gonna have another potential debate on October. I think Steve may actually be a moderator for that one. Yeah, we're collecting moderators for a final.
I'm definitely down for that
debate. Yeah.
Well, I think
our next one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Marion wants to share a screen, but Ed, if Marion shares a
Oh, yeah.
screen, I want you, if you can, for the audience, share those flyers. Maybe people will screenshot them. You know what I mean? So once Emmanuel shares his screen, then back to you, share the flyers on your screen. Maybe people can screenshot them for those events.
That's a great idea.
I'm sorry. Do you have the ability to share your screen, Emmanuel? Can you figure that out? If I don't even know if it has the permission to do that.
I think it should say present. If it does, I know it says it on my end,
Can
so I'm
it see it?
assuming it. Present.
Well, I did hit it. It's supposed to be showing. I'm trying to get it to show.
Gotcha. I think he's queuing it up right now, and then he's going to present.
I think Trump is going to win because honestly, if he doesn't win, it's very possible that he goes to prison. So all his followers will be like,
he is going to prison. No.
Yeah, they're going to lock him up and throw away the key if they win. There's no question about that. They have to shut him up.
I think his followers are just more incentivized. Their leader will go to prison if they don't save him, and then Kamala's people, what do they get? Like they get to lock him up. I mean, it's just not as urgent for Kamala's people. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, when people say it's the most important election of our time, it actually really is, because we're really at a point where if we go one route, we're definitely going to have tyranny, and if we go another route, we might have a shot of getting out of that. In my view.
You guys hearing that?
No, we're not hearing it. Maybe click the present button on your end on the interface on StreamYards, I think.
Or you can play it in the chat. Yeah, we could try to share it.
I'll put it in the chat, yeah. Are you figuring it out?
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's playing on my end, but for some reason.
Maybe you send it in the Zoom, and if you have the link, send it in the chat, and then I'll bring it up on my end, because I think I have the ability to present.
Okay, let me see if I can try it.
I think we lost Ed.
Okay, we see it now.
Oh, there we go. You got it.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, that we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah. So thank you.
Yep. That says it all.
This woman is a liar, a fraud, a phony, a fake, not authentic. You like her, not, like Trump or not?
Not to mention a grifter.
See, I never understood that. Why didn't they call her out on that? Because she said that, she never said she was going to ban fracking, but here she is, her own words. You guys saw it for yourself. This was her. And at the same time, she's telling us that her values haven't changed. If your values haven't changed since 2020, your values were you wanted to ban fracking. So if your values
Exactly.
haven't changed then, how come you're telling us today that you don't want to ban fracking? You can't have it both ways. You cannot say my values haven't changed, but my values say, oh, I want to ban fracking, but right now, oh, I don't want to ban fracking anymore, but my value hasn't changed. So what you're telling us is you're just telling us what you think you want us to hear, but in reality, we're going to do whatever you said you were going to do back in 2020.
It's a
So
side.
that's the real Kamala. Which is the real Kamala? Oh, we listen to this one. Did you evolve? But if you evolve, then why haven't you then taken
You're the real
steps
Kamala.
that you
Please stand
enact
up.
the things that you have done, that you say you were going to do? You say day one we're going to close the borders. You got the power to do that now. Day one we're going to do that. You can do it right now. All of this can end today. Kamala Harris can win the election hands down if she does everything she says she's going to do, if she pushes it right now. Because right now, as it stands, she has more political power and more political capital than President Biden will ever had from here on out. She had enough capital to be able to overthrow him and install herself as the candidate.
Yep.
And if you can do that, then you can push for some of the policies that you said you were going to do before.
Yep. I think it's shameful that they pushed out RFK Jr. like they did. That was completely shameful.
You just don't know how much this
Here's my view on that, right? They had to do
Oh,
that.
I have a pretty good idea, my friend. I have a pretty good idea, being a huge RFK Jr. fan myself.
But here's my thing. They had to do that. If RFK was not pushed out, a lot of people would not have become aware to what's going on. That happening contributed to people being aware of the fact that, hey, something's wrong here.
It did. That was key. I agree, for waking up people too. It really showed people like very a different contrast with the two scenarios, and I agree that was key in waking up a lot of people 100%.
Right, and that's why they say you have to make this election too big to rig. You know, that's why New York investment is key, because it'll catch them off guard. Just like the one in the Bronx caught them off guard, because what the Bronx Conservative Party did, because they're watching the Republicans closely. And on top of that, Trump could have raided home. You got to move the mic, brother. Hello?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing about Trump is he should say, "Hey, I'm bringing people together." Literally, they're all 12. I brought RFK together, which they tried to push out. I brought Tulsi together, which they attacked. You know, once again, whoever's advising Trump with the talking points is horrible. But I got to get going because I have a 9/11 event tomorrow to actually unravel the world's largest Trump flag down there. So I'm gonna get going, fellas.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Take some pictures, man. That would be great.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to join you that one today. This one. That's unfortunate, because I'm always over there, always ready to go. But unfortunately, this one, unfortunately, I won't be able to make this one.
Okay, no problem, guys. All right, good night, Ed. Thanks a lot, man. You're doing the work.
All right, good night. And I'm going to sign off too, because I have an early morning tomorrow. So thank you guys for having me. It's amazing. And go USA, go Trump. And guys, remember to go out and vote, and also be aware of who's running in your local elections. My name is Emmanuel Finley. I'm running for the 79th district in the Bronx. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I want to respond to Permaculture Mom real quick. I agree. I think that RFK Jr. is going to do a great job of keeping Trump in check on certain things. That's what I'm counting on too. So I wanted to wrap it up on that and respond to her comment.
We will see. We will see. All right.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
nervous
see.
myself, but we're going to see. Oh, Neo's here? What? Okay. All right. So we're pretty much finished. But Neo, if you want to say what's
Came
up.
a little late to the party, huh?
It's all good, man. We're still here.
Neo.
Did you watch
Man,
the
you're lost in the Matrix, I bet.
Yeah. Did you watch the debate, Neil? It doesn't say he's muted, so it's all good. But
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear us. Can you hear us, Neo?
yeah, it's all good. All right, and Tom's actually going to try to add him. I get a weird beeping sound, so Tom is going to
Agent
stay
Smith's
on.
probably talking with him right now.
It looks like Lisa's here, our permaculture mom, but she's actually.
Oh, Neo's mic's not working, he says.
All right. So yeah, man, I think that I think this was the best debate yet, to tell you the truth. So I had a decent time.
was.
With it.
By
I was
far.
I was looking forward to the answers. You know, I don't think either of them really effed it up. I think like they both held their ground. So
I think so too. I think they did pretty. I think she did better than I thought she was going to do. I think
yeah.
they
She's
both
a mess.
did.
I'm surprised. I was shocked at it. She did it amazingly well, right? Considering what I was expecting. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
All right, folks. So Tom is nodding in the background. It seems like he also agrees, right? Yeah, she's a big mess. But Wisconsin in the house. We got. I'm talking about people in Pennsylvania soon. We got Nevada in the house. Swing states. We got LA in the house. I believe Lisa, and we got New York in the house. That's right. So we're mad deep in New York here.
We're tag teaming this shit across the country.
Yep. Even though the press is not going to talk about our issues, we will have our own direct line into the communities. We don't give a damn. Yeah. So
Damn right.
Y'all market control.
We're the We the People News Network. That's what we are.
That's right. All right, folks. I'm gonna add you to my featured channels in the bottom screen, Steve. All right, yeah. With the News for Us world. All right. Peace out to you.
Definitely.
Peace out to Permaculture Mom. I guess we're ending this stream. Have a good one, folks. Good night.
Good night.